It was Christmas Eve in Norway after eating a lot and opening presents. I went to my room to play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which I got as a present. I was 15 years old at the time. I jumped on my Xbox and played for maybe 30 minutes. That's when I saw it in the corner of my eye. A huge lava lamp-colored flying object, shaped like a typical UFO, which it definitely was. Hovering maybe 10 meters to 15 meters away from me next to my neighbor's house, which was a taller building. I had to open the window as it could have been a reflection or something, but it was not. I could see it clear as day. Silent. Not reflective, but it was still glowing in this weird lava lamp type of color, never seen anything like it before. It kept hovering above my house and I lost track of it, so I rushed out to the living room. My family was upstairs at this point and the guests had all gone home. I was alone in the living room and a dilemma appeared before me: put my shoes on and run outside, or go to the balcony to try and catch a glimpse of it again. I rushed out to the balcony. Complete silence, only the sound of wind blowing snow around, no cars on the road. I ran back inside as it had clearly changed direction when it hovered over my house, so I looked out of a window instead. Then I saw it again, further away this time. But still it stood out in the night sky, appearing more red from afar. I called out to my older brother in a voice I could never replicate. To this day, my brother would tell me the tone was very different, and he immediately got chills and knew something was up. Keep in mind, I was a timid gamer kid at this point. He ran downstairs to me, looking out of the window as I had my eyes glued to the sky. He saw it too, dashing across the sky sideways with unbelievable speed. Nothing like we had ever seen. Maybe it was Santa Claus, who knows? But all jokes aside, 1 year later we put up some cameras trying to capture the event again. Really easy date to remember. But nothing happened. And nothing like that has happened to me ever since that night, which was 13 years ago. There was, however, a sighting by my neighbors at night, saying a weird object would hover around a light post in the middle of a roundabout close to our house. Didn't see it myself, so cannot confirm. I remember the night vividly. It was a warm summer evening, and I had decided to take a drive outside of town to escape the hustle and bustle. I'd always loved stargazing, so I found myself at the top of a hill, parked on the side of the road with my windows down and my music turned up. As I was listening to the radio, I noticed a strange noise in the distance. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but as it got closer, the sound became more distinct. It was a low humming noise like nothing I had ever heard before. I turned down the music and rolled up my windows, trying to get a better sense of where the sound was coming from. That's when I saw it. A bright light in the sky, hovering above the trees. I watched in awe as the light grew bigger and brighter until it was almost blinding. Suddenly, the light shot towards me, moving faster than anything I had ever seen before. I tried to drive away, but my car wouldn't start. I was trapped, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as the light got closer and closer. As it came closer, I could see that the light was coming from a UFO, a massive, disc-shaped object that seemed to defy all laws of physics. The craft was at least 30 feet in diameter, and it glowed with an otherworldly blue light that pulsed and shimmered in the night sky. I sat frozen in my car, unable to move or look away as the craft hovered just a few feet above me. I could feel the heat coming off of it, like a wave of energy washing over me. But it wasn't just the heat that was unsettling. There was something else, too. It was a feeling of dread, of overwhelming fear and panic that seemed to emanate from the UFO itself. It was like a physical force pressing down on me and making it hard to breathe. I don't know how long I sat there, paralyzed with fear, watching as the UFO hung in the air above me. It could have been minutes, or it could have been hours. Time seemed to stand still, as if the entire world had been frozen in that moment. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the UFO was gone. It shot off into the night sky with a burst of blinding light, leaving me alone on the hilltop, shaken and terrified. For days after the encounter, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, that I was being followed by some unseen force. I had nightmares about the UFO, about the feeling of dread and terror that it had filled me with. And even now, years later, I still can't look up at the night sky without feeling a shiver run down my spine. The memory of that UFO encounter is seared into my mind, a reminder that there are things in this world and beyond it that we can't even begin to understand. I stumbled out of the bar, feeling a little dizzy from the drinks I'd consumed that night. It was later than I had anticipated, so I stumbled towards my bicycle, hopped on, and began my journey home. It was dark, and the only sound I could hear was the sound of my bicycle wheels crunching the gravel beneath them. As I pedaled down the quiet country road, I noticed something strange in the distance. A bright light was illuminating a nearby wheat field, and it seemed to be scanning the area. I pedaled closer, my curiosity getting the better of me. As I got closer, the light became brighter, and I realized it was a UFO hovering above the wheat field. My heart began to race, and I knew I needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. I turned my bicycle around and began to pedal away, but my chain broke and I fell to the ground. I scrambled to my feet and tried to run, but I tripped and fell again. I looked back and saw the UFO getting closer, and I knew I was in trouble. I crawled towards the wheat field, hoping to hide among the stalks. As I lay there, I could hear the sound of the UFO hovering above me. It was like nothing I had ever heard before, a low humming sound that sent chills down my spine. I lay there for what seemed like hours, listening to the sound of the UFO hovering above me. I was too scared to move, too scared to breathe, and then suddenly, it was gone. The sound of the UFO disappeared, and I knew it was safe to move. I got to my feet and stumbled towards my bicycle, my mind racing. I knew I needed to get out of there and get home as quickly as possible. As I rode my broken bicycle down the country road, I looked back and saw the UFO hovering above the wheat field once again. I pedaled faster, knowing that I needed to get out of there before it was too late. When I finally got home, I collapsed on my bed, still shaking from the encounter. I knew that no one would believe me, but I also knew that what I had experienced that night was real. Over the years, I have never forgotten that night. The memory of the UFO hovering above the wheat field still haunts me, and I wonder what it was doing there and why it chose to scan that particular area. I've never been able to find any answers, and I am left with nothing but the memory of that terrifying encounter. It was a beautiful day for fishing, and my buddy and I were out on the water, casting our lines and enjoying the calm of the sea. We had been out for a few hours, and the fish weren't biting, so we decided to move to a different spot. That's when we saw it. At first, we thought it was a strange rock formation under the water, but as we got closer, we realized it was something far more unusual. A UFO was hovering just under the water's surface, about 50 feet down. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. We both froze in terror, watching as the UFO hovered in the water, completely silent. We didn't know what to do, and we were both praying that it wouldn't somehow kill us. We had heard stories of alien abductions and attacks, and we didn't want to become the next victims. The UFO was clear as day, with strange markings and symbols etched into its metallic surface. It looked unlike anything we had ever seen before, and it filled us with an overwhelming sense of dread. We tried to move our boat away from the UFO, but it seemed to be following us, hovering just under the water's surface. We were completely helpless, at the mercy of this strange and powerful entity. As we watched, the UFO suddenly began to rise out of the water, hovering in the air for a moment before shooting off into the distance at an incredible speed. We were left shaken and bewildered, unsure of what we had just witnessed. We both agreed that we wouldn't tell anyone about our encounter, afraid that no one would believe us, or worse, think we were crazy. But the memory of the UFO under the water still haunts us, and we wonder what it was doing there and why it chose to reveal itself to us. It was a peaceful day in the woods, and I decided to take my dog, Max, out for a hike. We had been walking for a while when we stumbled upon something that left us both frozen in fear. Up ahead, we saw a strange object hovering in the air, emitting a soft glow. It was like nothing I had ever seen before, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Max started growling, sensing the danger. I tried to back away slowly, but I couldn't take my eyes off the object. It seemed to be watching us, almost as if it was curious about our presence. I could feel my hands shaking as I tried to process what I was seeing. As we stood there, the object suddenly shot off into the sky at an incredible speed, leaving us both stunned. I had never seen anything move so quickly before. Max continued to growl, and I could feel his fear as if it was my own. We decided to continue on with our hike, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was like an eerie presence was following us through the woods. Max was on high alert, barking at every little sound. As we walked, the trees around us started to thin out, and we came across a clearing. That's when we saw it. A piece of the forest rinsed clean of trees, rocks, and vegetation. Only the fresh dirt remained. The area was shaped like a circle, at least 5 meters in diameter. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized what it meant. This was no coincidence. The object we had seen earlier had done this, and I couldn't begin to fathom why. Max continued to bark, but I could tell he was starting to tire. We needed to find our way back to the car and get out of the woods as soon as possible. As we walked, I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see the strange object following us. But there was nothing. The woods were eerily quiet, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. We finally made it back to the car, and I quickly put Max in the back seat. I started the engine and drove out of the woods as fast as I could. As we drove, I couldn't help but replay the events of the day over and over in my head. What had we seen? What had caused that clearing in the woods? And most importantly, were we in danger? I knew I had to do something to find answers. So I went online and started researching UFO sightings in the area. That's when I stumbled upon an article about a man who had encountered a similar object in the same woods. According to the article, the man had seen the object and had been hit with a bright light that had left him disoriented and confused. I considered myself lucky after that and held off going camping for a while, especially alone, even with Max by my side.